Welcome to another Woohoo Wednesday. I'm Little Woo, and I'm here to talk about a topic this week that I'm going to be teaching a class on tonight. I'm gifting this class, but I just want to talk a little bit about the pains and the trials of giving or receiving a no. So that's something that as humans we all have to learn. It's a life skill to learn how to make a decision and to be able to communicate your answer, which is either yes or no. And often the no part is more difficult for people. And when I talk to my clients and students, I find that they have a harder time saying no than saying yes. We're taught our whole lives to say yes, take the opportunity, seize the day, say yes at every opportunity. And that's a really beautiful decision to say yes, but it's also equally beautiful to say no. And that's what I want to talk a little bit more about today is the beauty of saying no and also the difficulties of saying no. My very first question is, have you ever said yes when you wanted to say no? And I can kind of give a few examples. There's the first example is when you might have agreed to help someone when you actually already had a lot on your plate. And so you actually didn't have the bandwidth to do it. You said yes anyway. That's one example that happens to a lot of people. Another example is agreeing to attend an event like a social outing or a party or something when you actually really felt like resting. And that's another common example. One that I tend to kind of struggle with is the amount of requests for me to, like help out, volunteer, or donate my time, or to support someone in a very meaningful way. So even though it's something that I believe in and that I would love to do, sometimes I have to say no because I just really don't have the time or the bandwidth. And that's so hard. And for me, the hard part is how often that I have to say that, because the more people you know, the more you'll get asked. And even though it's such an honor every time, it gets hard for me to say no when there's so many people asking or a person asking many times. So then I start to feel like I end up feeling bad as well. So even though I've been practicing and teaching this, a certain volume of requests does wear me down a bit. And I start to feel like, I start to fall into old habits of feeling the guilt or the obligation or the fear of disappointing others. Those are all things that we tend to deal with. So that's one of my examples from my life that I continually practice with. If you have a comment to make, I'm at this new platform that I'm using to broadcast live actually allows me to post your question or your comment right on the screen so everyone can see it clearly as I'm speaking. And so if you have a comment or a little story that you can share about when have you said yes when you really wanted to say no, I'd love to share your story with everyone who's watching, especially this will be replayed, this particular broadcast. And so feel free to answer that question at any time during this Q&A. And then the other question that I'm actually asking is, have you ever felt guilty when you did say no? And this is a feeling that a lot of us deal with after we have said no. So even though you knew how to say it and you said it super clearly, you end up feeling bad afterwards. Or another example is if the person doesn't seem to really land well with it, like they get really upset or they don't even seem to hear your no. That's another experience of a maybe unpleasant aftermath of having said no. So I'm just going to put that question up. Have you ever felt guilty when you did say no? It's important to think about what are all the times that you do feel guilty? What are the circumstances? Why do you feel guilty? For example, if you decline, sometimes for people, it's particularly hard to say no to family members, like a sibling or a parent who asks you for help or asks you to do something that you either don't actually agree with or you don't have time for, or that you're really dealing with your own stuff and you're trying everything you can to honor their requests, but maybe it's just too many requests or at a time that's very tough for you and you don't know how to communicate the truth of your situation, or you do communicate it and they react very poorly and you just deal with the aftermath of those emotions. Maybe it's hard to say no to someone who is asking you out, or someone who's very persistent in asking you to spend time with them, or to go out with them, or to have sex with them, or whatever it is that they're asking you over and over again, that you find hard to decline an invitation or request. Um, or something even as simple as ending a conversation with someone who just doesn't seem to catch any of your social cues that you need to go, and they just keep talking, and you just don't want to be rude, and then you find it hard to end the conversation. That's not a verbal no necessarily, but it's a type of closure and being able to say how you feel and say no, or say that you'd like to end this conversation, or walk away in a way that feels honorable and kind but yet clear. So those are all situations that come up for people that might be hard to not feel guilty if you do walk away or say no. The other question that I want to ask is, do you ever waffle or procrastinate because you couldn't make a decision? So you couldn't make a decision between yes or no. And your answer is maybe a maybe, or I don't know, which are reasonable answers. But at some point, that maybe or I don't know has to become a yes or no at some point. Or, you can drag out the I don't know for a long time, but, even the other person has to come to a decision as, do they want to say no or yes, or rescind the request, or we all have to make those decisions at some point if the intention is still there. And so have you ever waffled or procrastinated around a decision? Sometimes because you don't know yes or no, you tend to avoid talking to the person, or avoid responding, or delay responding, and then you feel bad. You feel bad about not responding in a timely way, or forgetting to respond because initially you just didn't know your answer and then you forgot about it. These are some of the questions that are really important to ask when you are figuring out whether you are empowered around your no or your yes. And that once you learn the skill, it's very, very important, because you're honoring everybody in the equation. Everybody who's involved in this yes or no question is going to receive the truth. And that's a huge gift to give others. And so tonight I'm going to be doing a special class at 6 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. I'm gifting it. So, if you can attend, it's Pacific Daylight Time at 6 p.m. till 7:30. And I'm gifting it as in celebration of my 1-year anniversary of doing Woohoo Wednesday videos. And I'd love for you to join me. Feel free to invite friends and family. I have a link that I'm including here. It's right up there, and also included in the comments, so you can click directly on it. That's how to join the session. You just need a computer, laptop, or a smartphone that has internet access. We don't have to be able to see you in the class, although you can opt to have your video on. Then we can see you, and I can interact with you visually and auditorily as well. Or you can just ask questions through a chat box, or just by audio. So there's other ways to take part, and there won't be a replay. It's a live interactive online class. I'll be hosting it. So there'll be time for Q&A during the session, and a chance to hear stories from other participants. And I really hope that you'll be able to join me for this session in celebration of 1 year of Woohoo Wednesday videos. It's a very powerful class. I have taught it quite a few times in person. I've taught it at a conference. I've taught it online a few times. It's actually a module inside one of my other longer programs. And it's a very potent module, and I'm gifting it tonight. I'll talk about 6 very damaging beliefs that have disempowered our ability to say no with clarity. And also I'm going to give you 6 internal shifts that you can make. And of course it takes time, but just really being clear on those 6 shifts that you need to make in order to give an empowered no that lands clearly and effectively with those who are, receiving your no. And then we also flip it around and help you see how these internal shifts help you receive a no with more grace as well, because your ability to receive no is also a life skill. And then I give the finale of this class tonight is my 3 gates method of making decisions. And it's something that will help you be more conscious of how to make your decisions so that you're honoring yourself and others. And it's 3 steps. It's really, really easy to do, but really powerful. And I've developed after a decade of, experimenting and understanding the energies behind yes and no. And it's a lot of energetic healing work, and I'm going to be training you and teaching you how to do this process. I hope you join us. Bye.